Hey y'all, welcome back to my vlog. If you were not here for the last video, it is linked below. We are unpacking this book called The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown. And there is still time for you to purchase the book, as I do believe I will be moving really slowly through the book because there's so much information here. So you can still purchase it if you want to follow along. If you read through the book completely on your own, I think the series that I'm providing will be really good for you to still follow with, because I've read this book multiple times, and even now as I'm reading it to create content that I want to share with you all, I'm still pulling gems that I may have missed or have not applied to my life because there's so much information in this book. So in the last video we talked about digging deep, and I hope and pray that you all are beginning to apply the skills and the information that's in the book, and really asking yourself, am I digging deep? Am I being intentional about digging deep? And today we're going to talk about hustling for your worthiness. It's the first chapter in the book outside of what I've already shared with you, and I'm just going to jump right in. She says, you learn courage by couraging. The same is true for compassion and connection. We invite compassion into our lives when we act compassionately towards ourselves, and we feel connected in our lives when we reach out and connect. So opening up this chapter, she gets straight into the fact that she's going to be talking about courage. You all can't see it that way. Courage, compassion, and connection, and that we have these things in our lives when we first practice them. Courage, compassion, and connection. And so, not covering the entire chapter, just a slither. Today, again, we're talking about hustling for our worthiness. She goes into this story where she is presenting to over 250 parents about something that she is a professional in. She's adequate and called for this speaking position. She knows her stuff. And in the audience, she sees one parent who is huffing and puffing, and clearly by way of body language letting it be known that he is not pleased with her. He's not satisfied with her presentation. And so what happens is, while Brene is in the midst of, and I wonder if it's Dr. Brene, I need to check. While Brene is in the midst of presenting, he's interrupting her presentation because of what he's doing, and it's causing her to amp up her presentation. Now she's, speaking louder. She's pulling out all her tools in her toolbox. And essentially what she says is, I tried to impress him. And she says, after doing all of this stuff, almost basically creating a circus for everyone just to impress him, she received no feedback. She said, trying to co-opt or win someone over like that guy is always a mistake, because it means, get into this, it means trading in your authenticity for approval. You stop believing in your worthiness and you start hustling for it. And so the question again is, are you hustling for your worthiness? I'm so excited about this series. I know I tend to get off topic sometimes, but I'm so excited because, again, I'm documenting this for myself. I want to share the tools that have been helpful for me with someone else. Excuse me. I also want to create a space where we can have dialogue, both offline and online, in the comment section. And if you know me personally, you can text me, sorry guys, or message me, or even meet up with me to talk about, like, you know what? Much of my life I've hustled for my worthiness. We hustle for our worthiness when we go into job interviews that we know we are overly qualified for, but we still have to convince people, right? And then we hustle for our worthiness sometimes in our close relationships because it's been challenged. I was thinking about, when I was preparing this, how recently a guy that I was into had expressed what he wanted, right? Things that he wanted for himself. And my initial response, not to him, but just within myself, the internal conversation that I began having was like, okay, how do I fit into this? How do I bend and shape myself to make sure this is in alignment with where your head is? And I instantly began to think, I'm hustling for worthiness. I'm hustling to find my place in this space versus knowing that I'm adequate enough to be in this, right? And if you don't see that, that's your issue. versus trying to mold myself, which sometimes looks like putting a cap on myself or boxing myself in to fit into what you would deem worthy. I hope that makes sense. So do you struggle with that? Like, is that something you struggle with or you have struggled with? And why do we do it? Why do we do that to ourselves? I think a great activity to just answer this question would be to really think about, when was the last time I was willing to go above and beyond for something that I knew I was the whole bag of chips for? You know what I mean? Like, when was the last time someone or something unraveled me so much so that it made me insecure and unsure about all that I am, all that God says that I am, all that I know that I'm qualified to be called and considered for? You know what I mean? Because it's in those spaces that we have to bring our most authentic selves to, and almost stop ourselves midway. Like, if Brene had just paused for a second and said, hey guys, you know, here's what's going on, and maybe even had not paid this one parent any mind, what her experience would have been like. And so she continues in her story, which I love so much, and she gives solutions, okay? And she says that as soon as she was done with her presentation, she began to experience shame. And what I love so much was that she began to identify things that shamed looked like and felt like. And many of us struggle with shame, right? So you go from hustling for your worthiness, that person or that thing possibly not picking up what you're throwing, right? So going back to my example about the guy, you know, actually engaging in a discussion. And I'm sharing this again, not because it's an issue in this moment, but just like recalling a time where I hustled for my worthiness, to also level set the fact that we all do this. Shame sets in when, after I have actually considered bending and compromising who I am, what I know to be true about myself, to accommodate you, to fit into what you desire of me, and you reject it. Like, the outcome is still not what I would hope for. Shame sets in, right? And so she began to say that for her, when the shame winds happen, you really can't stop it. You start having really negative self-talk, like, I'm an idiot, I'm stupid, I'm desperate, I'm disposable, I'm not worthy to be anyone's wife, I'm not worthy of love. You start saying things like that to yourself. And she says some of the like physical symptoms that she has, and if you can relate to this, is like a dry mouth, time slowing down. Y'all, I know that feeling when it feels like everything around you is just like, the internal noise makes everything just seem like, because all you're thinking about is what just took place. Racing of the heart, hot face. She says, replaying the situation in slow motion in your head. But this was so good, right? So here's a solution to, after you've hustled for your worthiness, after you found yourself experiencing shame, guess what she says you should do next? You have to reach out to someone. And I want to get into this really quickly so that we can wrap this video up. So if you have to rewatch it, rewatch it. If you have to pause, pause. I know it's a lot of information. I'm going to slow down, but this all works so well together that I needed it to be in the video. She says, practice courage and reach out. We have to own our story and share it with someone who has earned the right to hear it. Someone whom we can count on to respond with compassion, courage, and connection as soon as possible. Y'all, when I'm experiencing rejection, or I am settling, or I am hustling for my worthiness, when I'm trying to be a part of a friend group, when I'm trying to join an organization, when I'm trying to get a job, whenever I'm hustling, which means working to prove myself to someone or something, the last thing I want to do, if it is not met with a yes, or it does not yield positive results, even if it does yield positive results, the last thing I want to do is admit to someone in my life that I am hustling for my worthiness and I am experiencing shame. But yet she says it's the first thing that you should do. Right in the moment when everything around you, the noise is, you know, quieting out because you keep replaying the scenario, the first thing that you need to do is reach out for connection. but it has to be with the right person. Oh, so good. She says, because shame thrives in secrecy. Woo! Y'all want to throw the book? I'm about to throw the book. Shame thrives in secrecy. How many of us have been in shameful places and we work through it by ourselves? By ourselves. Because we were so ashamed to be experiencing shame that we didn't let anyone in. How many of us do this? Our strong friends, our weak friends, our friends' friends, whoever you are. All of us do this. And so she says, but here's the tricky part about compassion and connecting. We can't just call anyone. Y'all better take out some pen and paper because listen, we're doing this. We're going through this book. She says, if we share our shame story with the wrong person, they can easily become one more piece of flying debris, in an already dangerous storm. Yeah, this is so good because essentially what she's saying is, yes, you do need to connect with someone, but now I know it's a whirlwind. I know you're stressed out. I know things are overwhelming, but right now you can't just call anybody. It's got to be the right person. Because if you just call anybody, who will pick up, right? Even if it's that boo thing that give you attention, even if it's that friend who ain't got no life, so they always available, even if it's that friend who, it can add to your storm. And so here's the friend, she says, these are the people you want to avoid. And I'm going to be honest, and we're going to wrap up on this point because I think that's a lot to chew. She says, you don't want to call the friend who hears the story and actually feels shame for you. This friend gasps and confirms how horrified you should feel. Then there's an awkward silence, and now you're making that friend feel better. How many of us have had that? That friend that we call with an issue, and suddenly we are the strong one. Like, what the heck? I called you because I need a moment. You're not listening, or you're making me feel worse. And now we feel worse. And so because neither of us are navigating out of this, I'm going to just pick up the pieces and make you feel better about my situation. Number 2, she says the friend who responds with sympathy, which is, I feel so sorry for you, versus empathy, which says, I get it. I feel with you and I've been there. Number 3, the friend who needs you to be the pillar of worthiness and authenticity. This person is so disappointed in your imperfections. You've let this friend down. Are you kidding me? I'm having a rough day and I share with you what just happened and you're disappointed because I dropped a ball that you've had in your head about me? Stop, okay? This one. The friend who is so uncomfortable with vulnerability that they scold you. Now, this one I put down, I'm going to be vulnerable with y'all, that this is me. Let me explain. This friend says, how did you let this happen? What were you thinking? Or they look for someone to blame. Who was that guy? Will kick his butt. So I said this is me because I sometimes, in a rough situation, I didn't realize that I was uncomfortable with vulnerability, that I would jump to not scolding my friend, but more so, let's go beat that person up. So this was like, whoa, like while this entire statement doesn't completely describe me, the description includes some of what I would do. So I don't want to stray from it. Am I that friend that when you're having a rough moment, I'm ready to, like, we're not going to really go fight, right? We too grown for that. But I'm that friend that's like, where they at? Versus empathizing with you in this moment. You don't really want, I mean, we can laugh about the guy, but that does not need to be the center of our conversation. He's taken up enough time and space in your emotions. So that one got me. Then this one got me too. The friend who is all about making it better and out of their own discomfort refuses to acknowledge that you can actually be crazy and make terrible choices. So this friend says, you're exaggerating. It wasn't that bad. You rock. You're perfect. Everyone loves you. Y'all. This friend that she just described has good intentions. But this friend does not give you space for vulnerability and authenticity to be like, yo, you are crazy. You do make bad choices. Like I'm not giving you space to acknowledge that as truth. Instead, I'm building you up. I'm like, you know what? The house is burning down. Let's just build. Let's not address the fire. Let's just build. Good intentions, not helpful. And then the last friend is the friend who confuses connection, right? So you call them, with an opportunity to one up you. Oh, that's nothing. Listen to what happened to me one time. So they completely overlook your emotions and take this opportunity to make you feel better, or help. They think they're making you feel better because they're going to tell you about a time that exceeds this pain you are experiencing. No, that's nothing. Let me tell you. That's not me. I didn't say that one. But number 5 and number 4, I was like, ouch. Okay. Now, here's where we're going to wrap up. She says, it's hard to practice compassion when we're struggling with our authenticity. So it's hard to practice compassion. The friend that you call it, it's hard for them to practice compassion when they're struggling with their authenticity or when their worthiness is off balance. She says, when we're looking for compassion, we need someone who is deeply rooted, able to bend, and most of all, we need someone who embraces us for our strengths and struggles. We need someone who embraces us for our strengths and struggles. Y'all, this had me looking at my friend circle. Like, I know we boast about being strong friends, like people in general, that is a thing. But your friend circle should give you space to struggle and be strong. Then she says, we need to honor our struggles by sharing it with someone, y'all, who has earned the right to hear it. So my closing questions, because we are already at 17 minutes, is, have you hustled for your worthiness? If you have time, I want you to journal. Think about it. Think about times you have and how did you feel? What was the impact? Think about times that you are currently hustling for your worthiness, baby. You are worthy. But if you don't know it, or if you don't believe it, spaces will get to tell you, come up, hustle some more, because we don't see you. We don't value you. You're not worthy, right? Number 2, are you one of the friends mentioned? And if you are, say ouch, and then it's time to adjust. It's time to reposture yourself. And number 3 is, do you have someone who has earned the right to hear what's going on in your life when you're experiencing shame? When you are hustling for your worthiness and the outcome yields shame. Really think about your friends. And this is what I want to say, because we live in a generation where we throw people away when they don't meet the mark of what we just learned. Think about the friends who may mean well, but they don't realize that it's not helping, right? And maybe have transparent conversations with them and say, you know what? So I really appreciate that you think highly of me, or I really appreciate that you don't see me as someone who can ever get it wrong, or I really appreciate that you have had your own experiences that could outdo this one, but here's what I need moving forward when I call or when something's going on, and here's what I'm working on to give to you too, because I need this. I'm connecting with you right now when everything in me wants to isolate. Let me know how that goes. Let me know your answers to the 3 questions. Comment below. Also, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, share, like this video. I'm going to be texting this video to people I love and care about because I want to open the discussion. If I send it to you, please send it to someone else. Please comment below. Like, I really want us to talk about stuff like this. The gifts of imperfection, because this is y'all, I'm probably going to tear this book up before we finish this series. And always, I'll see you in the next video. Lastly, if you have not, go check out my blog. I've changed the name, and I've also been adding content. Sometimes I'm not sharing it on my platforms, but I do want you to know that it'll be pretty consistent. So that is at www.alicia-elizabeth.com. That will also be found in the bio below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.